Hello everyone, this is part 13 of What If Naruto Was Madara's Brother, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. The atmosphere inside the room was quite somber as Tajima sat surrounded by his allies and his family. The matter of discussion was the fate of the three elders who were currently rotting in the dark cells. Many of the clan heads wanted the elders to be to death for their treason against Tajima's family. Others wanted to make an example out of them. Toby Shimura had actually recommended flaying the elders alive and then hanging their burned skin in the Uchiha settlement as an example of what happened when one crosses their liege lord. Even cold-hearted Tajima had been repulsed by that option but made sure to decline that punishment suggested by the Shimura with respect. A few soft-hearted clan heads wanted the elders imprisoned for life. There was still no consensus achieved and the lords and ladies were still bickering with each other over which option was best. Only one person had remained silent and Tajima glanced at him. Naruto's face was set in stone as he remained standing in a corner listening to suggested punishment for those who wronged him. He had not said a word till now but was forced to step in the center when his father beckoned him. Instantly, the bickering clan heads stopped their arguments. Maybe we should let him decide the punishment. It was his honor those people tried to harm, suggested Tajima. An excellent suggestion, Lord Tajima. It is befitting, agreed Toby Shimura readily. What do you have in mind, Lord Naruto? Asked Rei Namikaze curiously. Naruto flinched at that addressed to his name. All his life he had been called nothing but AK, and now with a single battle he had achieved most of the things he had lost. The Uchiha was still warming up to the idea of accepting him back as one of their own, but they were not spitting at him either. He would call that progress. He looked at his family and saw all of them were willing to accept whatever decision he made. He had already listened to all the suggestions, some seemed reasonable, others were barbaric to him even if they were a norm during this era of B-Wars. He made his decision. I want them beheaded before last light today, declared Naruto calmly. Very well, acquiesced Tajima, earning consenting nods from all the clan heads and his family as well. The meeting was about to break up until Tajima saw Naruto was yet to stop staring at him. What is it? Asked Tajima straightforwardly. I'll do it myself. Shocked gasps escaped from most people's lips on that demand. Tajima narrowed his eyes, Madara frowned and Naori looked worried. There is no need for that, Naruto. Whenever we have to one of our own kin for his crimes, we have from outside our family who do the job. By doing so, the one who does the K cannot be branded A, explained Tajima, careful enough not to say the dreaded word knowing how much it affected his son. I am already one, father. It won't make a difference, rebuffed Naruto seriously. Naruto. The clan heads and Naori flinched when they saw the cold fury that arrived in Naruto's eyes as he glared at Tajima. If I putting someone to death, then it is my responsibility to look them in the eye and do the deed myself. I passed the sentence, now I'll swing the sword. Tajima blinked at those words before a proud smile twitched across his lips. He looked at Madara who gave a reluctant nod, the gesture repeated by Naori. The Uchiha clan head saw his allies were very impressed with Naruto's decision. Even if AK was reviled by most clans today, Naruto had already done the deed many years ago, so it wouldn't make a difference if he proven traitors. Most of all, he proved himself a man and not a boy by deciding to carry out the sentence himself. If Tajima remembered correctly, it was the old way that his son followed. It started during Indra Uchiha's days when the clan head would traitors, deserters or criminals himself after passing the sentence even if they were Uchiha. Back then, nobody dared question Indra even if he his own kin. Looking at Naruto, Tajima could not help but feel that Indra was reborn again in this boy. Very well, Naruto. You are allowed to carry out the sentence, declared Tajima, earning a grateful nod from his son. Father. Tajima paused just as he was about to break the meeting. What is it? Asked Tajima curiously, and didn't miss Naruto chewing his inside lip, which was a clear sign of nervousness and hesitation. It is a bad idea to march our entire force towards the daimyo's capital. It could send a wrong message or there could already be a trap set for us, pointed Naruto. We were invited by the daimyo himself, Naruto. The law is clear in this matter, we are under the daimyo's protection under his roof. Not even the Senjus can break the peace there, clarified Tajima, but Naruto shook his head. Don't trust those tree huggers, father, insisted Naruto, earning amused chuckles from their bannerman on that nickname given to the Senjus. Tajima was still not convinced until Madara stepped forward as well. He's right, father. We cannot trust the Senjus or the daimyo no matter what the laws say. Therefore I propose that I and Naruto go to the capital with a small force and initiate these negotiations. We'll check for any dangers while you wait with our army near the river. If there is a threat, we'll give you the signal so that you can either attack or retreat, explained Madara. I agree to this plan. But father, if it's a trap you cannot send both of your sons into danger. Let Madara stay with you, or go, suggested Naruto. Madara s his hand harshly against the table before him making many people flinch. You think I'll send my youngest brother to that trap all alone? Demanded Madara furiously. I can take care of myself, challenged Naruto, and was quite irked that his brother thought him weak if something turned against him. Before the brothers could argue further, Toby Shimura and Rei Namikaze got up from their chairs silencing Madara. Lord Naruto is right. You cannot send both of your sons into the capital, because if it's a trap and both of them get captured or then the Senjus will have more leverage over us. Since Madara is your heir, we suggest to make him the leader of our forces that would wait near the river with you Lord Tajima. The moment we see trouble he can bring fire and beat our enemies, proposed Rei Namikaze seriously. Don't worry about your brother, Lord Madara. I as well as Lady Namikaze shall take 500 of our best fighters with him to the capital, and the Kinsguard will also join us. The Senjus or the daimyo would have to go through our corpses first before they can even lay a finger on your brother, promised Toby Shimura honestly. Naruto was left speechless. These two were the leaders of their clans and they were accompanying him willingly to the capital knowing there was a very good chance of being captured and All these years, he had only Kurama and the Kinsguard willing to follow him into danger, but this was the first instance when two clan heads and their supporters were willing to risk their lives for him. Even going so far as to lay down their lives for his own. He looked at his father and saw the man then gaze at the two clan heads pointedly. The message from Tajima was clear for Naruto to understand. You find your true friends on the battlefield. It was one thing to pledge loyalty but to actually go through with it no matter what could say a lot about a person's character. Naruto glanced at the Namikaze and Shimura clan heads. They were one of the first to pledge him their full support and now when the time came they came through with their promise while the other clan heads had been hesitant in making the same offer. It didn't mean they were not loyal but Naruto could see whom the Uchiha could rely upon without any doubt in any situation. Even Madara seemed pacified by that loyalty and backed down much to Naruto's relief. Then it's decided. Naruto, you will go to the capital as my envoy. I give you authority to speak for our faction. However, I will keep Tobirama hostage with me and Madara to prevent any accidents from occurring inside the capital, said Tajima with a smirk. He was pleased when both his sons grinned back at him. It's a good choice, father. I know Hashirama, as long as we have his brother he will not allow anyone including the daimyo to even raise a finger against Naruto, assured Madara. I'll make sure to give them a taste of Uchiha diplomacy, proposed Naori. At first Tajima hesitated but eventually he had to cave in when his sister looked at him pointedly. It was no truth Naori was a master at her game which was negotiations and diplomacy. No matter how cunning or skilled Naruto was, the boy was not fully ready to deal with the royal court itself. Not to mention Hashirama Senju. But Naori had years of experience and could give Naruto sound advice during the negotiations. Plus, Tajima doubted she was willing to let Naruto go into the lion's den on his own while the rest of his family remained safe. It was no secret to Tajima that his sister loved Naruto like her own son, and while she was not a woman of many words just like him he could clearly see the love she had for Naruto in her eyes. Naruto tried to protest against risking his aunt's life, but was forced to shut up when Tajima and Naori gave him a pointed stare. Soon after the meeting broke up and Naruto had to stay behind to receive a lengthy lecture from his aunt for trying to make decisions for her by himself. Madara and Tajima had made sure to enjoy every moment of that conversation. Heavy rains fell from the skies, drenching the lands clean off all the bee and gall that had contaminated it because of the conflicts during the past few weeks. Yet before these lands could get a fresh start, some more bee was about to be spilled. Tajima, Madara and Naori along with all the other clan heads watched as the prisoners were brought forward in the center of the open field where 3 wooden stumps were ready for them. When the prisoners were ready, they all stared at Naruto, who closed his eyes before taking a deep breath. When that was done, the boy opened his eyes again, and this time they were as hard as steel, which allowed him to walk forward as the rains drenched him from head to toe. Tajima could not help but be proud of his son, for he knew Naruto was not doing this for vengeance. His son was not that kind of man. The only person Tajima knew his son truly hated was currently rotting in a cell, and sooner or later Naruto would take his life as well. What made Tajima proud of his boy was the fact that he grew up to be exactly the kind of leader their clan needed. Someone who could support Madara in making the hard but the right choices. Tajima glanced at his sister and they both smiled because they now knew their legacy was safe in the form of these 2 boys. But for the moment, the gazes drifted towards Naruto as he reached the prisoners, and everyone heard the conversation that followed. It was Ayato Uchiha who glared at Naruto harshly. The crippled man's lone eye burned with hatred but never regret. The bee of Indra flows through my veins just as much as yours, boy. I fought Kento Senju for your grandfather, I fought Butsuma Senju for your father, and I fought Hashirama Senju for your brother, said Ayato proudly. We are kin by bee. Uchiha and Uchiha, stated Atami sternly. Naruto's ice-cold eyes glared down at the 2 old men and 1 woman who stared back at him with fierce defiance in their eyes. Until they end, they were proud Uchiha. If only they knew why he became AK, then maybe none of this would have happened. But that secret was not to be revealed, for it would destroy the Uchiha before the Senjus ever could. You betrayed me. It's time to face the consequences of your actions, said Naruto stoically, earning a scoff from Hotaru. You talk of justice. You, the man who killed his own bee and the person who is about to do so again, sneered Hotaru spitefully. Kneel. Naruto's stern command earned him 1 final glare from the 3 elders, but they did kneel and placed their heads ahead of the wooden stump. Wordlessly, Naruto created 2 more shadow clones who took up positions with their swords beside Atami and Ayato, while Naruto himself took up position beside Hotaru. Ayato Uchiha, Atami Uchiha, Hotaru Uchiha, today before the gods and men I sentence you to death for treason against your own clan and your liege lord's family. Any last words? Stated Naruto calmly. The 3 looked at him, and the hatred he saw in their eyes was not something he would ever forget. Nor would he forget the words they said to him, for they would haunt him. My ancestors are smiling at me for trying to do my duty by saving my clan from a monster. Can you say the same? Demanded Atami Uchiha. No man is ever hated as much as AK in this world. Today, knowing that one day you will pay in bee for all the bee you have shed, cursed Ayato Uchiha. Naruto remained stoic in the face of those words as his eyes moved towards the last elder. He didn't say it, but every moment of this act was like AS to his heart. He didn't want to do this, didn't want to shed any more bee of his own people, but there was no choice. These 3 had rebelled in the open and an example had to be made. There would be some outrage over the of the last 3 elders, for they were quite respected among the clan. He had decided to them himself, saving his father, brother or aunt from giving that order. He even recommended this punishment so that every Uchiha knew that it was his decision all along. But what he was about to do was just the same thing as the one he did on that night when he killed his clansmen. Back then he had a reason, just as he did now, but it hurt him just as much as it did back then. Hotaru Uchiha's last words were the final dagger to his heart. K me and be cursed, K. You're no kin of mine. The swords came down without hesitation, severing heads from shoulders, unleashing a torrent of released bee, staining the once green grass as the twitching bee collapsed against the wooden stump, while the accusing and hateful eyes still glared at him from the severed heads lying on the ground. He dismissed his clones and threw away his bee sword. He marched back towards the Yamanaka settlement just as furiously as the rains fell from the skies. His eyes were angrier than ever and his heart threatened to explode from the inside. But he didn't cry or scream, he didn't acknowledge the respectful and proud nods of the other clan heads. They were all impressed that Naruto actually had the balls to carry out the sentence himself, not knowing the real reason why he did it in the first place. Despite their crimes and their hatred of him, those elders were Uchiha. They were family. And he killed them, just as he killed all those Uchiha mercilessly that night. He had sworn never to do such a terrifying thing again in his life, and yet today he just had to do it again. The elders were right. He was cursed. Naruto sat alone in the shady bar shrouded in darkness. His hand idly twisted the cup of sake while his eyes absently stared at the liquid inside the cup, which continued showing him the moment when those three heads were separated from their en, all the while those haunting words said by those people echoed across his heart. His hands were still trembling just as they had on that night all those years ago. Back then he had done his duty, just as he did today. But it hurt. It hurt a lot to kill people he was sworn to protect, to take the lives of those who were his family no matter the reason. For it put into question all his years of loyalty. What was the point of it all if he just had to continue killing his own people? You're no kin of mine. He finished his drink in one single swoop and felt the heat it passed across his body. Those people. They had hated him, conspired to kill him and depose his family. He wondered if they would do the same if they knew why Naruto killed all those Uchiha years ago. Would they understand? Would they find it in their heart to forgive him? Or would they still hate? Leadership is never easy. He hazily looked up and saw his father and Naori standing before him. When he didn't say anything, Tajima took up a seat across from him while Naori came forward and sat beside him. Without warning, Naori s her arm around his shoulders, bringing him closer as Tajima ordered another round of drinks for the three of them. One of the few times the Uchiha clan had actually indulged in drinking. Neither Naori or Naruto missed it, but they did not stop Tajima either. How do the two of you do it? Asked Naruto silently, and saw both brother and sister glance at each other. We were 7 brothers and sisters once, admitted Tajima, his gaze lost in some long-forgotten memory and his voice laced with sadness. Naori looked even worse as he felt her clutch him even more fiercely. What happened to them? Naruto's question was not answered by Tajima but by the man's sister. They all were You know why your father and I hate the Senjus so much, why our people hate them? Asked Naori. Why? Whispered Naruto. Your grandfather was tired of this never-ending war. He proposed a truce against the wishes of his clansmen and allies. He wanted to do it so that his children could live a life free of war and death. Your grandmother wanted the same, admitted Naori sadly. I wish I could have met them, said Naruto honestly, making Tajima weakly smirk. They would have liked you. A silence fell over them as their drinks arrived and they all busied themselves with drinking the sake. When that was done, Tajima's eyes turned cold and his fists clenched while Naori looked heartbroken. When our father reached the peace talks, all his children and allies accompanied him, and then, said Tajima bitterly. And then the Senjus killed them all. Naruto's heart skipped a beat as he heard what happened. Nobody had ever told him the history of his family, nor had he cared enough to investigate. He had always assumed his father and aunt hated the Senjus, but he never understood why they hated them so fiercely to see them all s. I watched 4 of my brothers s before my eyes. The youngest were k before they even realized what was happening, the elder ones s trying to protect my father. Everywhere there was chaos, for the Senjus and their allies had set up a perfect trap. We were foolish enough to have gone there on good faith. I somehow managed to drag Naori away from the chaos, but my youngest sister Rei was captured. They raped and her while the few of us that were left, including our wounded father, were dragged away by one of the Shimura fighters, revealed Tajima. Your grandmother couldn't bear the loss of 5 of her children, weeks later. Your grandfather became a defeated man who lost hope. We thought all was lost, but Tajima never gave up. I wanted vengeance, but he advocated patience, so we regained our strength. It took years, and when we were ready, we Kento Senju's entire family except for his last son Butsuma, who became the new Senju clan head. We avenged our family, but it will not be complete until we see the Senjus pay for all they have done to our family, said Naori fiercely. For the first time, Naruto saw a new side to his father and aunt. All these years he had thought them to be undefeatable and the rock that held their family and clan together. He had lost 3 brothers in one battle, and it pained him till this day, when he compared that to the loss these 2 had endured. I heard what Hotaru said to you, said Tajima seriously. No matter what I do, I don't know if I can be one of them again, confessed Naruto, which made Naori touch his cheek and look him in the eye. You are Naruto of the Uchiha clan. The Bee of the Dragon. Nobody can take that away from you. Naruto couldn't help but smile, which made him smile as well. Your life has not been easy, Naruto. But someday we might not be here, it will be just you and your brother. We survived because Naori and I stayed united no matter our differences. You and Madara must look after the Uchiha, and that includes doing things you may hate. Madara will do his job when the time comes. Despite his shortcomings, he loves our clan and this family. You must help him in that, advised Tajima. I will, promised Naruto without hesitation. Life is never certain, Naruto. Should something happen to your brother, cautioned Naori. I won't let that happen. Tajima and Naori smiled on seeing the fire that came alive in Naruto's eyes, and they knew right there anyone would have to walk over Naruto's corpse first before they even got to Madara. And yet, we believe you. But if something does happen to Madara, then I want you to promise us something, said Naori seriously. Naruto merely nodded and saw Tajima glance at him with all his seriousness. If that happens, then you will be the leader of the Uchiha. I know what many think of you, but there are several others who would follow you all the way to hell itself. If one branch falls, even then the tree must stand strong. You understand? Asked Tajima, his intense dark eyes boring into Naruto's soul. He was pleased when his son didn't flinch and replied without any hesitation. I promise. Naruto saw they were satisfied with his answer because they knew that he kept his promises. He saw Naori looking at Tajima with a silent question in her eyes. No words were needed between them, just like no words were ever needed between Naruto and Madara to understand each other. The bond between siblings was quite unique and strong, no matter the generation. Tajima finally nodded, which made Naori smile widely as she turned back towards Naruto. What is it? He asked curiously. Would you like to see your mother? Naruto's heart stopped. All his life he had wanted to get a glimpse of his mother, and the only way to do that was through memories. He couldn't recall his own since Hikari's soon after birthing him, but his brothers and family remembered her. His father never talked about her, some even said when she so did what was left of the light in Tajima's heart. After she was taken, Tajima never smiled openly. His brothers also didn't have much memories of their mother, except for Madara, and Naruto knew his brother didn't like anyone to look into his mind in any manner. Even Naori never talked about her much. But now, Naori gave a nod as he activated his Sharingan and looked into her eyes. He felt himself enter her mind, and she had already been prepared, for the first thing he saw was a sight that brought immense joy and pain to his heart. There, sitting on a bed, was the disheveled form of his mother. She had long brown hair just like him, even their skin tone was the same, so were their eyes. She was breathing harshly, but there was a smile on her lips and such tenderness in her eyes as she held the infant in her arms. Her remaining 4 boys had surrounded her bed, looking curiously at the bundle in their mother's eyes. Tajima was standing in a corner, and Naori held him fiercely as silent tears slipped from his eyes. Naruto himself stood in a corner looking at his entire family together for the first time before his eyes. His brothers, all of them were so young and innocent. Izuna. He tried to reach out and touch his brother, but his hands passed through the young Uchiha. This is your last brother, my sons, whispered Hikari gently with a smile. Naruto stopped breathing as he saw Hikari try to pass the bundle to Madara, who was still too shocked to move. Instead, it was Izuna who came forward and cradled the infant in his small arms. Mother, he is smiling, said Izuna in awe, which made the S-woman lightly chuckle. He likes you. You will protect him, won't you, Izuna? Asked Hikari lovingly, and saw the young boy nod fiercely. With my life, mother, promised Izuna. So will I, promised Madara after a pause. Me too, chorused Anabi and Yashiro in unison. The twins looked young and confused, but they faithfully did what their older brothers were doing. Hikari laughed and brought all 5 of her boys in a fierce embrace, her last embrace. Her words echoing in the air. Naruto, his name is Naruto. Tajima watched as the trance broke and saw his sister staring at Naruto. He expected the boy to cry and he wouldn't blame him, but Tajima was surprised to see Naruto laugh. There was no sadness or misery in that laugh, but joy and gratefulness. Naori looked at her brother and saw him nod. When they came here, the boy had been a mess. He had looked lost, but now he knew what he was fighting for. He knew his family had his back from the moment he first came into this world. And that fact would not change no matter what happened. Thank you, whispered Naruto gratefully, looking at his father and aunt who smiled back at him. Now go and get some rest. We leave for the capital tomorrow. Tajima will finish some things here before joining us. You know the plan, correct? Questioned Naori. I know. Good. Sensing the conversation had ended, Naruto got up feeling quite relieved and nodded respectfully at his father and aunt. Naruto. He was just about to walk away when Tajima's voice stopped him. Looking at his father, Naruto saw the man was still smiling. If you ever want to talk about your mother, you know where I am. Naruto was stunned yet again. Tajima never talked about his ex-wife with anyone, even now it had been Naori who gave him that priceless memory. And yet Tajima. He could only imagine what his father was putting aside to talk about someone he loved more than anything, one whose loss hurt him even today. Naruto himself never liked to talk about Izuna or his twin brothers to anyone, so he knew what Tajima was offering him was not something trivial. I'll hold you to that, father, said Naruto with a grin. Get out of here, said Tajima irritatedly, although the smirk hanging at the corner of his lips betrayed his real emotions. Naruto laughed before walking away. Mikoto irritatedly opened the door of her temporary home with a nasty frown on her face only because the visitor had not stopped banging the door for a single second. Although, her frown was soon replaced by concern when she saw Naruto standing there in the rain, drenched from head to toe and shivering badly. Wordlessly, she grabbed him and dragged his inside. Before he could protest, she threw a spare towel at him which he took with his usual wide grin while she went inside the kitchen and started brewing some hot coffee. When she returned back to the living area, she saw he had made himself comfortable on her couch, but thankfully he had dried himself first. She offered him the hot coffee which he took with a grateful nod as she seated herself in front of him. Her sharp eyes hadn't missed how furious he had been when he the elders. It had been the right thing to do, but it was painful nonetheless. She admired his resolve for seeing that difficult affair through till the end. He was still staring at the coffee, occasionally blowing a cold breath over the hot liquid before taking a few sips. Still, she saw a storm raging inside his eyes which could only mean he was thinking quite hard. After spending nearly a decade with him, she knew most of his traits clearly by now. Although her patience was running thin tonight. Naruto, she prompted, finally making him stare at her. You remember you once said that you wanted something more for us, he said hesitantly, and watched her freeze. Those dark eyes of her narrowing down at him dangerously with hope but caution burning in them. I did, she admitted, trying to control her own heart that was beating faster and faster with every passing second. And I had said that I cannot risk doing that because it will put you in danger, he pointed carefully. And I told you that I can take care of myself. Besides, we're ninjas, our life is never certain, she pointed, earning a complacent nod from him. I know that, he replied hesitantly. What do you want, Naruto? Speak clearly, she demanded, unable to handle the anticipation. When she frustratedly got up from her own seat on the couch, he followed after her into the kitchen and blocked her way. They were both inches away from each other, so much that she could feel his breath which was smelled of coffee, rainwater and mild trace of sake. You. Her eyes widened at that confession and looking into his eyes she saw he truly wanted this. Still, she wanted to be certain even if her heart was just about to explode from joy. What changed? She asked, even as she inched even more closer to him. She saw the flash of sadness in his eyes which was soon replaced by determination. She wanted to know why that emotion passed through his eyes but decided it was better to let him speak or risk him running away again. He had already done it for many years. I saw something that made me realize I don't want to rest alone. I want to have a family, be with someone who does not judge me. I really, really like you, Mikoto. You're funny, caring and never back down before me. You see me for the person I am and not as he whispered. And, she whispered back, her lips now brushing against the tip of his own. I won't lie to you. I truly want this, I want us, he requested, and saw her stare in his eyes. Then answer my questions, she demanded, earning a nod from him. Do you love me? She asked straightforwardly, but he didn't look away as she had expected. Not right now, but I will in time, he confessed honestly. If it was any other woman they would have backed away, but Mikoto preferred the hard but honest truth instead of a convenient lie. So, She accepted his truth by laying her head against his own. Have you ever been with someone before? She questioned, and saw him flinch. Answer me. He knew his own reaction had given him away. He had expected her to feel jealous, but strangely there was an entire different look in her eyes that made something burn inside his sea. I have slept with only one woman before. And I am not going to offer any explanation on this, said Naruto seriously. Fine. 3 weeks later, Hashirama Senju stood alongside his family and his allies near the gates of the fire capital. Personally, he and everyone else would have preferred not being here, but it was a courtesy that was demanded by the daimyo himself. Since the old and stern man had extended the same gesture to Hashirama's side when they arrived here, and since they were also under the same man's hospitality, they were obligated to facilitate his wishes. He faintly smiled on seeing Tsunade restlessly tapping her foot with a nasty scowl present on her beautiful face. In the rays of the morning sun which had finally arrived after weeks of rain, his sister was glowing with all her beauty and grace. But it was also true, the Uchihas had taken their sweet time in getting here. It had been more than a month since the fire daimyo issued the summons to the dragons, and since the order failed to mention when they were expected at the earliest, it had allowed the Uchihas to exploit the opportunity to the fullest. Every passing day had already rattled Tsunade and Kawarama's nerves. Hashirama himself was not happy, but unlike his siblings he had expected the Uchiha to pull off a stunt like this. Certainly from the notorious young dragon. News of Naruto's trial had reached the capital. It was also widely known now that the boy crushed the coup against him by the elders of his clan and went ahead to eat them by his own hands. Beheading. Hashirama was still disgusted by that ancient custom followed by the Uchihas even today. They were the followers of the old gods and everything that hailed from that lost era. Even in these modern times. In that regard, only the Kaguyas and Hagoromos were the ones who were the same as the Uchihas in this matter and many others. The Senjus also eat their enemies but through hanging. Most of the other clans did the same as well, but the Uchihas had in a span of a few months demonstrated that they were capable of beheading their enemies, flaying them alive, and in rare case wipe out an entire clan to the last member. All of those 3 barbaric acts performed by a young boy Hashirama was about to meet in a few minutes. Hashirama still didn't know what to think of Naruto Uchiha, the young dragon. The past few weeks he had made sure to listen to every information he could gain on the boy since he was the one who held Tobirama's fate in his hands. What he discovered had not placed a rosy picture before Hashirama. Naruto was every bit Tajima's son, not just in B but in deeds as well. Mercy was not his strong suit, but ruthlessness was. Fire and B. Those were the Uchiha clan's words, and Naruto was the perfect embodiment of them to the last letter. If it was Madara who Hashirama had to talk to, then the Senju head had a faint hope that his friend would at least listen to him if not outright reject returning Tobirama. But Naruto. He was brought out of his musings when he sensed it. The others were a little late, but soon enough they too heard the sounds. Their small welcoming party was currently standing exactly on the tower above the large gates which allowed them to see the Uchihas when they first arrived. The first to break out of the dense forest was a young boy in dazzling golden armor riding atop a giant fox. Behind him came hundreds of more fighters riding atop the horses the daimyo had provided for their fast travel since the lord couldn't wait anymore. Hashirama didn't miss the Uchiha, Shimura and Namika's banners being carried proudly by many of the riders. But Hashirama and everyone else's attention was mostly fixed on the young boy in golden armor and the other 5 Uchiha dressed in bronze armor that were riding beside him. All of them were heavily armed and looked ready to respond on the first sign of any treachery. Despite his past deeds, Hashirama could not help but accept that Naruto was a striking man. Apart from his past exploits, the Uchiha was a handsome man inheriting all of his mother's beauty and his father's tact. More than that, he had carried himself back into the good graces of his allies with the victories he achieved over the years. Hashirama could attest that fact by seeing the way all those Uchiha, Shimura and Namika's fighters were riding faithfully by his side. On the first sign of trouble, it would be they who would step into fire first before they allowed any harm to fall on their liege lord's son. The Senju clan head saw the daimyo and his royal family looked quite impressed from what they had seen so far, which did not bode well for the Senjus. But he cast those dark thoughts aside and looked at his siblings to gauge their reactions. Kawarama flinched and started biting his lips in a clear display of nervousness. The boy had not forgotten the recent battle where he was almost killed by Naruto. Tsunade on the other hand was somewhere between maintaining her scowling expression and hiding her curiosity. No matter how much she tried to conceal her emotions, Hashirama could actually feel her conflict but chose not to call her out on that or risk letting her explode in anger and denial in front of all these people. If he knew her right, then Tsunade despite her curiosity was thinking about 1,000 different ways to KO all their enemies. As the Uchiha force drew nearer, the daimyo beckoned his own group to step down towards the gates. Everyone obediently followed the man's order without question despite any of their personal feelings. Thankfully, it was not long before Naruto rode inside the royal castle atop his giant fox, surprising everyone as they truly saw the massive beast in all its glory. Two of the royal guards backed away when the beast snarled at them, earning a chuckle from Naruto, who patted the beast, which actually made it stop intimidating the guards. So the tales were true. He really does ride atop a giant fox. Despite the situation, Hashirama couldn't help but smirk on imagining a dragon riding atop a fox. It was a hilarious sight, one which would certainly make any Uchiha furious, which Hashirama was forced to avoid lest he endanger his brother's life any more than it already was. Still, he waited as Naruto got off his horse and his Kinsguard dismounted from their own horses. Their party was joined by the Shimura and Namikaze clan heads. They all waited patiently as a strikingly beautiful female came from the rear ranks. She had all the Uchiha features, the high cheekbones, the extremely fair skin tone, long and straight dark purple hair, and eyes that had the power to charm anyone or intimidate them to death. So, this was the famous Naori, the infamous sister of Tajima Uchiha. Together the entire group formed a protective circle around Naruto and approached towards their host. The Uchihas were nothing if perfect in the way they knelt before the daimyo. It might have hurt their pride, but Naruto seemed intelligent enough to understand which man he must not provoke. Hashirama hoped the boy would feel the same when they met. But the moment their eyes met, all he saw were cold eyes full of hatred. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.